Hello everyone, J.Yumeko here, and welcome back to The Letter. Last time we left off, we were possessed as Hannah, is my guess at least, and now we're playing as Zachary, and Isabella came to our house late at night and she seemed a little bit shaken up. By what? We don't exactly know quite yet. But without further ado, let's jump right on back into it. Also, happy Halloween, guys. I know that, we're kind of throwing some stuff in here. Okay, phone, please stop. Okay, well, let's just go in. We'll talk later. The first few notes, while muffled, are enough to wake me. In the end, it became one of those nights when sleep passes like a blink and is plagued with vague, fuzzy thoughts. I lift a hand to rub away the drowsiness from my eyes, although it does little to relieve the gritty, burning sensation from my eyelids. Outside, the sun has yet to peek over the horizon, but night has already given way to the cool morning light, washing away everything in subtle gray hues. At this hour, the entire city remains unstirring. Ordinarily, waking up before my own alarm means abusing the snooze button, twice or thrice just to catch those precious few extra minutes of sleep. But the persistent ringing makes it impossible now. This better be good. Groggily, I scramble for the bag sitting at the foot of the bed. The ringing still hasn't stopped even as I fish the phone out, and Ashton's name flashes brightly on the screen when I turn it on. Must be pretty urgent if he hasn't dropped the call yet. Took you long enough, Z-Man. Jesus, what kind of voice was that? Ashton, it's 6. 6 in the morning. The sun hasn't even risen. Hell, my brain isn't even awake yet. And stop calling me Z-Man. It's 20 past 6, Zach. You're one to talk. Give me back my 5 extra minutes, ass. I want my sleep. I think I called him ass on accident. Hey, don't make fun of me. I could be a morning person too if I want to. What's this really about? You don't usually make calls around this hour. Is the world ending today? Sorry about that. Becca rang me up a few minutes ago looking for Isabella. Said she didn't show up in her own apartment last night. We both tried calling, but her phone seems to be off. Do you have any idea where... I should have known you two would come looking for her first thing in the morning. Not a laughing matter, Zach. You can't really let your guard down with everything that's happened here recently. You've heard about the Cooper woman from the news. Everyone in the precinct has been restless ever since the incident the other day. Yeah, I get what you mean. Listen, Ash, about Bella. I let my voice trail off, unsure of how to go about recounting last night. If I should even say anything to him. He might be a close friend, but at the end of the day, whatever's bothering her ain't mine to speak of in the first place. On the bed, Isabella remains as still as when I transferred her the night before. Sometime during her sleep, she pulls up a blanket over herself and tucked into it comfortably. Like this, it's easy to forget the horror in her eyes, or how much her hands and lips trembled. Save for her firm grip on the edge of the covers, she appears nearly as normal as she would any other day. Almost. I'm not really sure how to go about this while being... Zach, what about her? Something. The worry, the concern, must have surfaced in my tone because his own shifts then. Carefully, as if he's preparing for the worst. Look, you don't have to worry about her. She's with me right now. Since last night, in fact. Oh, why didn't you just say so earlier? She kinda knocked in the middle of the night. I couldn't possibly wake you two over that. And with how things are when she arrived, I thought it'd be best if I let her rest first. I just wasn't expecting people would be looking for her before the rooster even crows. You could have at least called her something. Becca's besides herself with worry when she found out. You know how much she frets about the smallest stuff. I know. I'm sorry. That was a lapse on my part. I just didn't think... Okay, you know what? Rebecca's worries ain't completely baseless. Isabella hasn't been her usual self since the movie. Maybe even before that. I don't know if I should be opening my mouth about this, but Bella didn't outright say I shouldn't, so something's wrong then. I'm not quite sure, to be completely honest. I couldn't get the story out of her. Really? I thought you'd have learned something from me by now. That's not it. Ash, when she appeared at my doorstep last night, she was shaking. And when I tried to ask her about it, she just panicked. I had this frightened look on her face. I'd be surprised if this was the first time I've seen it, but it ain't. Dude, the first time she was screaming. The first time? When was this? You weren't talking about the thing in the movie house, are you? Because that was just us fooling around. Granted, I think I went overboard with the joke, but... No, it happened the day after, when she invited us to lunch. You weren't there. We were talking one second, and the next she's crying out. I'll be straight with you. That scared me shitless. It bothered him, if the way he falls silent after his telling. But whatever his opinion is stays absent from his voice when he speaks again. He's always been good with that, hiding what he thinks. Did she say anything else? Nothing. Won't tell me anything aside from a few vague words. I didn't want to push it. Where is she? Is she sleeping? Right here with me. Still sleeping. Should I wake her up or something? Let her know you guys are looking for her? No need. Let her rest. I'll drop by in a few. Today? Don't you have work at this time? I mean, I can drop her off home myself before meeting my client later. Look who's talking. My schedule's flexible, Ash. Last time I checked, you're the one who didn't have that luxury. How on earth do you think I'm able to tag along when you need me? It's not completely out of the way. They live on the other side of the town from you, Ash. Your definition of out of the way is a little screwed up, you know? It's fine. I have some things I need to do anyway. I'll call you back. I've got to let Becca know that Scaredy Cat's fine. Bye. He drops the call before I can even get a word in, and for several minutes after, I find myself simply listening as the rest of Luxburn rouses. The increasing sound of passing traffic, the bustle of the nearby shops preparing for the day, and the growing clamor of the people while they go about their morning. Not the most soothing sounds to hear following a troubled night, but the routine puts me at ease nevertheless. What's comforting, what's safe, what I'm used to. Nearby, Isabella shifts but doesn't wake, blissfully unaware as the city slowly stirs itself back to life. Was her night as restless as the one I had? Were her dreams as lucid? In hushed moments like this, I envy her. Unreasonable, probably a little unfair to say such in the light of last night. If only forgetting is as easy as breathing. A small yawn escapes me when I rise from the couch to stretch. Luckily, the short conversation with Ash hasn't effectively driven away any will to go back to bed. I still have to get through despite the proverbial ghosts hanging around. The orange bottle sitting at the edge of my table is reassuring against my palm the instant I pick it up. The sterile odor of the capsules, equally so. Yet the weight they carry is something I've never gotten used to. Geez, music's kinda loud for me. I hope it's not too loud for you guys. Years ago, I'd spend minutes, heck, even hours standing at a single pill prior to taking one in. Now it's just routine, a way to stave off the unwanted nightly visits. Although I don't think Dr. Navarro will be quite pleased if he ever finds out that I'm relying on them again. I do owe him a visit regardless, especially after missing our appointments on purpose and ignoring his calls for weeks. Another sigh comes out, tired and weary, and then I pop the tablet into my mouth. Zach, what time is it? The bottle on my hand hits the table with more force than necessary. As much as I trust my friends, there's some things I'd rather keep to myself. Morning, Bella. Did you sleep well? She answers the question with a long, drawn-out yawn, one reminiscent of a child. A chuckle manages to escape my mouth at the sight. In this manner, it's easy to mistake her for someone too young for responsibilities, inexperienced and immature even. Easy to forget she was thrust into the role of an adult earlier than her own dreams can afford, to overlook how surprisingly observant she can be at times. Maybe not on the same level Ash exercises with his investigations, or Rebecca needs for her own work, but it's certainly enough to deftly put what she sees around her on canvas. And if the way her eyes flicker to the table in my hand says something, it is that I won't be able to avoid the question this time. Only a little. I don't remember how I ended up on the bed, though. My doing. You didn't look very comfortable sleeping on the couch, all hunched up like that. It would have been enough for something temporary. Sorry I stole your bed. Hey, it doesn't matter. Besides, what kind of gentleman would I be if I leave a lady sleeping in such uncomfortable conditions? Not in this house. My nana would give me a scolding if I ever did that, I'm telling you. Thanks a lot, Zach. I know I barged in at a very inconvenient time last night. I wasn't really thinking when I did, and Hey, it's cool, Bella. I ain't mad at you. That's what friends do. You guys are welcome here anytime. Although Ashton abuses the anytime part a lot, I don't really mind. We might have less wiggle room if all four of us are present, considering the size of this place, but as long as no one's making anything explode, it's totally fine.
Fine or not, I still owe you one for last night's trouble, especially since you don't seem to be...
A concerned expression passes over her features as she spares another cursory glance over the table, back to the bottle holding every small piece of what keeps the bad memories at bay. The blood blooming over Pa's heart, the horrified look on Ma's face as she watches him fall lifeless to the ground, and every ounce of spite seeping from the stranger's smile. You don't belong here. You monkeys don't belong here. Jesus, fuck! That got racist real quick. It never stops, does it?
Well, you don't seem to be feeling well. Let me know, okay? I'll make it up to you somehow.
She makes a slight gesture with her hand towards the bottle, asking a question without really asking. Subtlety has never been one of her greatest assets, but right now, even Ash would have been a little amazed, if not at a loss for words at that. So, I guess his parents were killed by some racist? This game presumably takes place, in modern day. So that would have had to been pretty fucking radical for somebody to go out of their way to kill two people because they're black. Not that it doesn't happen, but I don't know. Especially in what is presumably a European country. This is very clearly not a country in the American continent, right? Anyways. She's left it up to me whether I'll give her a response she wants to hear or not. A little clever coming for her, if anyone would ask me. We're gonna save. And I want to tell the truth, because, she's a friend, right? Nice, it went up. But it's never easy, ain't it? Talking about my own problems, that is. It'll never be, not by a long shot. Not when I've let it stay this way for so long. I realized that long ago, when the wounds are still fresh and the dreams are a nightly occurrence. Can't force yourself to get better and move on to better things. It is what's normal now, and I can only cope. The question in her eyes may be unwarranted, born simply out of curiosity and sincere concern for a friend. I don't owe her an explanation, in fact. But of all the people I keep close in my life, she's probably one of the very few who perhaps I can trust with this. Maybe she won't understand entirely. I can never hope she will. No, never to the full extent. That alone is expecting too much of her, and giving too much of what I can. However, for all her shortcomings, I know she'll hear me out. And that's all I can ask of her. My bad. I was kinda hoping you wouldn't see me with these. The pills rattle lightly against the container when I gently set it back to its usual place. Always the small area closest to my laptop, near the right hand. Within reach whenever, and a quiet reminder of what I shouldn't miss every day.
What? Oh, is it bad? I was just thinking maybe it's cold like Becca's. Do you need me to get anything from the store? Soup or anything? There's one nearby, right? I can run real quick and...
No, nothing of that sort. I'm perfectly healthy right now. It's really difficult to say, but can you promise me you'll listen at least?
What is this about, Zach?
I should have been upfront with you about this a long time ago. Well, Ashton found out without me telling him anything, but you already know how that guy is. Can't hide anything from him.
If it's something you're having trouble saying, you don't have to force yourself to tell me. I'll forget I ever saw anything and won't ask questions. Promise.
No, I need to get this off my chest eventually. Besides, we're already here. Might as well finish what I started, yeah?
If you say so.
She takes a seat on the couch, her posture easy and open, and her smile honest. As if this is just a simple talk between two friends on a regular day. It's far from one, but her unreserved air is enough to stamp down the twinge of unease that threatens to come up.
Let's hear it then.
And she does. True to her words, she listens while the story spills out of my mouth. Of my ma and pa, that little old diner across the pond, and what it left of me in that day. I can't recall most of it now, my own account jagged with a few missing details here and there. passing years have eroded most of my recollection of the whole incident, all except for that one moment in the kitchen. The ringing of gunshots were as vivid as it sounded that day. Even Ma's hysterical screams the moment Pa's body hits the floor motionless, his lifeblood flowing out from under him. And the gunman... Oops. He was smiling. He was smiling when Pa opened the door to welcome him. He was smiling when he put a bullet to Pa's chest and Ma's head. I've heard stories about how the world can be a cruel place for people like us before. I never believed until that moment. Nana and Gran took us in right after that. Sis and I flew straight to New Jersey as soon as I heard the news. A few days later, Ma and Pa were laid to rest, and we have a new home a continent away. I didn't even get the chance to take my favorite pillow with me. They said something about the change of environment would be good for us. They had no idea a kind of ghost would follow me here. I expected questions, mostly those brimming with childlike curiosity, and maybe some that are a little too hard to answer. But to her credit, she just sat there, lent her ears, and looked at me with no expectations or unnecessary judgment in her eyes. She appears wiser and older like this, easier to see the breadwinner in her. Her younger siblings are lucky to have her. When I'm done, after everything's been said, she wraps her arms around me. A bit awkward considering the gap in our heights, but it gets her sentiment across. But it's difficult to answer this in kind, if I'm even supposed to reciprocate the gesture given my earlier apprehension. She pulls away shortly with a smile on her face, not the reaction I braced myself for, but it is obviously better than what I imagined. Are you not going to say anything?
Am I supposed to say Am I supposed to say something after that? Like, apologize or something? I don't think that's very appropriate, but if you want to hear one, I can think of something real quick.
Not really. Other people usually have something to say after, and they're not necessarily nice either.
Oh? Okay then, I won't. I can't think of anything anyway. Sorry I'm not very good with this. Who else knows, by the way?
My older sister, grandparents, and just Ash and you for now. Maybe I think I should tell Rebecca, too, but...
But not right now?
Yeah, not right now. When I'm ready, like today.
I'm sure she'll be willing to hear you out once you do.
I don't doubt she will. I'm more afraid of how she'll react after. But one step at a time, yeah? Surprisingly, it feels good to get that one off my chest. I was a little afraid you'd be angry I didn't tell you earlier than today.
I'm not angry. I'm just surprised. You didn't look like it. I wouldn't have suspected.
Suspected.
I suppose that's how it often is, isn't it? We all have our, what's the word Becky uses? Inner demons? But this is something personal to you. I understand why you'd rather have a few people know.
That too, and, well, these past few weeks haven't been easy for you. I didn't want to add to that, not after last night. Something passes in her face, brief, fleeting, and disappears right before I can recognize what it is. You okay?
Yep, no worries. I'll be fine. Look, about last night... Never mind. This isn't a good time. But don't lose sleep over this, alright? What's important is you got to say what you wanted out. And if you need me, I'll be here.
I should be relieved. Her words are more reassuring to my ears. There should be comfort in hearing those alone, in knowing I have another person to rely on if things ever go bad. But somehow I find myself worrying more for her instead. I'll make another attempt to get this story out of her if I can. But this is a dance I know all too well. And with her, I doubt forcing her to say anything would yield any results. As much as I want to imitate Ash, there's only so much I can ask that won't result in something a little over-disastrous. At best, she'll stop talking to me until a week passes. At worst, I'd rather not risk it. I've never seen her angry. Outright annoyed, maybe, and often directed at Ash, but never furious. What do they say about happiest people when angered? Besides, it'd be unfair to her after our little chat. So, food then? She seems relieved at the brisk change of subject, and as if it has been simply waiting for its cue all this time, her stomach rumbles at the mention of food. Rather loudly, as a matter of fact. Alright, Missy. We're gonna get some chow now. Better quick, though. Can't have your stomach starting a revolution on us here.
Don't make fun of me. I'm not that hungry. Maybe a little. I didn't think I'd end up skipping dinner last night.
Now we have one starved stomach protesting. Sorry, it'll be nothing fancy since I'm a little low on stocks. I should probably drop by the grocery store after the meeting this afternoon.
I can make a quick run for you if you want.
Nah, I've got enough to put together something nice here. Maybe. I can always improvise if we're missing an ingredient or two. It ain't like we're going for a Michelin 3-star status here. Also, didn't I say you're a guest? Is this a Filipino thing, or just Rebecca rubbing off on you? The soft laughter that comes from her doesn't quite reach her eyes. Neither. Neither. The answer is neither. Because if she stays idle, she'll remember. On second thought, I might need a little help slicing up the potatoes while I prep the ham. You up for that?
What? Do you think instant noodles are all I'm about? I'll have you know I can cook a mean paella with my eyes closed. All my siblings love it.
Sure you can. Come on, I think I know what we'll do with the spare ingredients. Despite the massive effort to keep the mood light with small chatter, cooking ends up being a mostly quiet affair. Between us, the distant clapping of the knife against the board, and the muffled noise from the television I left running, words have become surprisingly difficult to string together. Not entirely unusual, we've had moments like this before, but definitely unnerving with how things are now. I really wish someone else would come knocking at the door. As pleasant as this is, breaking the ice or keeping conversation going has never been my forte. That's always been Isabella's or Rebecca's department. Sometimes Ash's, although most coming from him border on awkward or embarrassing. Speaking of the guy, he never did call me back, and I'm willing to bet my entire yearly salary that he fell right back to sleep after that call. Oh, or not. Sorry, Bella, could you...
Yeah, I got it. The potatoes are almost ready, by the way. I turned down the heat just in case. You might want to check on them, though. Hold on, I'll be right there. Sheesh, wait up. If you keep rapping at the door like that, you'll break it down. Ash.
Oh, good. You're awake. Ash has already welcomed himself in when I take my eyes away from the oven. He's never really been keen with the notion of courtesies after he's warmed up to you, this guy. All 13 of my locks he broke can attest to that. He's a good fellow, though. Maybe a tad bit standoffish at first, but he's I can't speak, but he's trustworthy. Jesus Christ.
Don't you have work today?
I could ask the same of you. Hey, Z-Man. You're late. Something come up? You need to drop the Z-Man. It's getting old. Sorry, I got caught up with something out at the precinct on the way here. I had to attend that thing first before things got out of hand. I'd tell you about it, but you know how I can be with these kinds of things. Later, maybe.
And you're here because...
What, I'm not allowed to say hello?
I doubt you're here because of that, and you're not answering my question.
My bad. Forgot to mention that. He called earlier looking for you. Rebecca's worried because you didn't come home last night.
You could have called my cell instead.
You weren't picking up. Anyway, I'd really hate to cut this little get-together short, but I need to be somewhere else. Come on, Isabella, let's get you home. I'll drop you off on the way.
Wait, we're going now?
He lightly claps a hand on her arm and begins ushering her out of the apartment, throwing a casual wave at me as they pass. Isabella, on the other hand, doesn't appear too fond of the idea. And sure enough, before they can even cross the threshold, she puts a firm foot down, the force alone enough to halt them both and catch a taller man off guard. It would have made for a funny picture, the way Ash almost crashes into her and Isabella giving an indignant pout over her shoulder. Surprise and confusion are in his face all at once, two things that rarely ever grace it if he can help it. A rare moment, even for our small group. If only I have my camera with me. Dang. What is it?
Zach cooked something.
If it's just food, I'll get you something on the way back.
But the food! Zach's cooking! Real delicious food that actually tastes like food? At least stay and have a bite, please? Zach, help me here.
These two. Whenever they're in the same room, sometimes it feels like hurting a group of unruly kids instead of talking to two mature adults. One moment they're engaged in a pleasant chit-chat, and the next moment they're bickering over a minor issue. Frankly, if I didn't know any better, and I have an overactive imagination, I'd say there's something going on. Never mind how utterly impossible that idea is. Oh, there is something going on, Zachy boy. There is. Or it might just be me reading too much into things like always. I can already hear Ash's laughter if I so much as suggest such. This, however...
Come on, I cooked up a feast, man.
You know, we're cooking up in here, right? This is some Gordon Ramsay shit. I don't know about you two, but I think you guys should really stay. I've already made enough food for all of us and it'd be a waste. Why, I cooked up that special honey glazed yam you two keep on yapping about. Got some scalloped potatoes with onions and cheddar to go with it too. The oven timer dings. I shoot the two of them an apologetic look before sauntering over to the kitchen, mittens in hand. The sweet smell of the glaze and salty tang of melted cheese wafts through the air as soon as I open the door and take out the two trays inside. The scent immediately fills the room, and even with the door and windows open, the mouth-watering aroma lingers. It's appealing enough that when I put the dishes down on the counter, another starved stomach protests loudly, followed by a burst of laughter. My head snaps up at the two of them, and I can't keep back the smile at the sight they make. Isabella's clinging to the doorframe for support, doubled over with breathless laughter. Ash is the more composed of the two, trying to look unconcerned, but a flush has crept up his neck and cheeks. It's clear whose stomach that came from, and Isabella's not going to let him live this down. You're in no place to reject an offer of free food, Frey.
I wasn't rejecting anything. Damn it, I just missed a meal, that's all. Aw, he's flustered.
Shut it! Those guys at the precinct said it was urgent. Somebody has to be responsible for it.
Well, aren't you precious?
Right. You know, if you keep laughing like that, you'll burst.
I'm sure it won't be as bad as your stomach suddenly rumbling like a starved...
Alright, kiddos. Play nice. Food's gonna get cold if we keep this up. Ash, you gonna stay? Might as well, since Scaredy Cat's so hell-bent on staying. We eventually settled down for the food that has been served. The jibes replaced by another round of friendly chatter, mostly about what's on the news the night before. There is, however, a conscious effort to avoid mentioning what's currently on the headlines. The dead is never a good topic to talk about over food and polite company. In this case in particular. The wounds are too fresh, too soon. I'd likely avoid it as well if I were in her position, and someone I knew personally passed away in a gruesome manner like that. Though perhaps the closest thing we got to broaching the topic is when the infamous mansion is brought up again. But even then, we're careful, Ash and I. We keep the conversation light and avoid bringing up her late business partner. It's the least we can do.
The Wrights, yeah?
Oh.
The Wrights? Yeah, they're planning on moving in soon. In fact, they already had... Ah! The Wrights.
Fuck!
The Wrights? Yeah, they're planning to move in soon. In fact, they've already have a housewarming party planned. It's why they wanted us to rush the papers. They wanted to send the invitations out as soon as possible.
Oh, now I get it.
Get what?
Remember when I told you last night about the new clients?
Vaguely. Sorry, I was a little out of it yesterday. Was it the photo shoot?
Yep, it's actually the one you sold. It's actually for the one you sold. Armin... something. When you put it that way, I suppose it makes sense why my boss wanted me to prioritize the couple. If they can have those documents rushed at just the snap of their fingers, then they're more influential than I initially thought. Man, I guess my boss is expecting a lot from this project than I expected. Hope I can live up to it.
Your photographs are more than good enough, Zach. You'd probably win an international award if you let yourself. Ma'am Han is easy to please, too, as long as you're good at following instructions.
Easier said than done. Different clients have different tastes, after all. Still, a week? I don't think that's possible.
Now that you mention it, yeah, they wanted everything finished at the earliest. To be honest, it's not unheard of, but
it's still weird. Still weird, yeah? A slip of the tongue. Still barely noticeable to someone who's Still barely noticeable to someone who's familiar with Ash's ways. Yet in this moment, it's impossible to miss. I shoot him a curious glance, but he ignores it. Rather pointedly.
I can't exactly say it's like that. I'm just the middleman after all. As much as I want to comment on it, I only know what's on the surface, not the ins and outs. It's just that BRC and my boss are more hands-on with the legal stuff this time, despite having a separate department dedicated to it.
Maybe Minister Bright helped with it too. They have their own legal team for this, don't they? Well, they should have one, especially for a big property like this.
They have, but like I said, it's off our hands. Rose and I don't handle this stuff in the office. If anything to me, this just means I'll be able to send the rest of the funds for Papa's treatment earlier.
I guess that makes a whole lot of sense. Officially off our instant noodle diet, aren't we?
Ash, has anyone told you that you have an uncanny way of ruining the mood?
What? I was just saying. A few more months of stuffing your face with those and I'm sure you'll start to look like a noodle cup. Oh, that's a pretty picture.
At least I don't live off convenience store food, or make poor, unassuming pressure cookers explode.
What? How did you... Oh, come on, Zach. Sorry, it just came up while we were cooking earlier.
I'm impressed, Ashton Frey. You even made it to the news.
A one-time thing, and it wasn't as big as you seem to be imagining.
Oh, sure. Let's all pretend that one time you almost set my apartment on fire didn't happen too.
Hey, that was an accident.
You were making a salad, Ash.
Can we please move on to a different topic? It helps. The casual talk, the harmless teasing. The mundane story is interesting enough to let time pass unnoticed. By the time lunch ends, the shadows are no longer at the forefront of my mind. If it's the same for Isabella, for whatever troubles her, I can never tell. These things, the anxiety, the fear, they ain't easily seen, ain't easily forgotten after all. You go on ahead. I've got a few things I need to ask Zach. I'll be downstairs in a minute. Confusion briefly flashes in her eyes as she catches the keys tossed over to her, but he doesn't give her an answer and waits for her to go ahead.
How sure are you I won't be driving away in your Shirley?
You don't even have a license. Do you even know how to?
Papa taught me how. I'm probably a better driver than you. See you later, Zach. Thanks for the food.
Always have to have the last word, don't you? You're welcome. I'll send you the recipe for the potatoes tonight. A grin is back on her face when she leaves and closes the door behind her. For a little while after we're left alone, Ash goes wholly quiet, listening, waiting for her remaining footsteps in the hall to fade. The early amusement is gone from his face, replaced by what I can only describe as trepidation. I know that look all too well. When he's like this, he's expecting shit about to go down at some point soon. That wasn't very nice, Ash. What was that with Isabella earlier? You're usually subtler with your questions. They hired you? Oh, they hired you. Hired me? Who? Don't change the subject yet. What's really going on here? The Wrights. Luke and Hannah Wright. You said your next gig is with them. Is that what this is all about? Just be careful around them. You have no idea what you're dealing with when it comes to that couple. I'd rather you stay as far away from them as possible, but you're already here. Isabella's their real estate agent. Seriously, of all the people in Luxburn. Okay, I guess I'll just have to take your word for it. He nods, clasps a comforting hand on my back, and turns to leave without another word. He's never been good with those. More often, he fumbles with what he wants to say, but his actions alone are enough to tell me how grateful he is for the trust. He reaches for the knob as soon as he gets to the door, but doesn't turn it. Instead, he looks back and gestures with his head towards the table. I don't need to follow his line of sight to know what he's going to ask about. He's likely taken notice of it the moment he entered the room. You back on those? I haven't seen you take them in a year. Yeah, I kinda had to. It got worse after the film fest. The dreams, that is. I don't think I'll be doing that again anytime soon. Heard about that. Don't drop it, though. You don't want Becca scolding you. She actually enjoyed the movie you made, as she's hard to please. Consider that a small victory. You don't have to tell me. She already did. Rebecca and Becca both gave me an earful about, after I said the opposite. Promised them I wouldn't, but you can never tell. Hopefully once I feel better, I'll be able to think about it properly. Speaking of Bella, she didn't open up to me, but with you and Rebecca, yeah, I'll try. I can't promise anything, but I'll talk to her. Thanks. That's all I'm asking. This time when he reaches for the door, he lets it close fully behind him without glancing back. A mild draft sweeps into the room as I close the door behind him, slightly disturbing the papers on the fridge nearby. A lone note flutters by my feet, the letters on the surface glaring at me with mute intensity. Armored Guard Mansion, H. Wright, 11 a.m. After Ashton's warning, they all hold a different meaning now. Alrighty. We're not going to end it yet, don't worry. So, I guess so far in our timeline, what we have is that... Jan, shut the fuck up, Zach! Shut up! Zach, shut up. Please. Oh my god. Oh my god, okay. Please stop. Please stop. I'm trying to talk here. I'm literally trying to talk. Okay. The next few days rush by in a blur. Altogether leaving a collective mess of work suddenly piled up. And new unexpected acquaintances. Or friends. Depends on how you look at it, really. Either way, I'm stuck developing these photos at 3 a.m. in the morning to reach a deadline set by an overeager art director. Don't get me wrong. Julius is good. Okay. Seriously, no, he's actually going to drive me crazy. Oh, thank God. Okay, let me talk, Zachary, for the fuck's sake. So, anyways, I just wanted to intervene here to say, first off, so it seems like the timeline that we have so far is that Isabella is looking for this, big time promotion, or not promotion, but she's looking for this bonus, right? And the bonus involves selling this house. And she needs the money to send it back to her father for medical treatments back in the Philippines, I assume. Then the Wrights come in. They buy this mansion. They're like, oh, yeah, it's my dream home, blah, blah, blah. But, they're having a little bit of marital issues. And so some time passes. And before they actually confirm in selling the house, Isabella finds this note. Then all of a sudden she starts seeing ghosts and all this stuff, right? And exactly... Oh, no, yeah. And then before Zach goes to the house to take pictures, the whole thing where she gets trapped in the office and the ghost is right there happens. She goes to Zach's house. Then, I guess in the span of those 2 days is when he goes to the Wright mansion and takes the pictures. And then after that, maybe like a day or two after he does his pictures or so, is when Hannah gets possessed, presumably. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And even then, we still have Marianne, Rebecca, Ashton, and Luke to go through. It's kind of interesting that we're gonna be playing as Marianne because she hasn't had a very prominent part in the story so far, because with Isabella, we instantly got involved with Hannah, with Zach, with Rebecca, with Ash, and with Luke. And I mean, we've had moments with Marianne, but not enough to really give too much insight on, her character, I suppose. But I guess we'll just have to see, because she's up next, so that'll be pretty interesting. Doesn't matter when you couldn't sleep anyway. There is nothing new in it, of course. Ugh. After years of working as a freelance photographer, it's simply something I've grown used to. Get to know people, build a client base, do good work, and cash in some late hours if need be. Rinse and repeat. It certainly takes a while to get some footage on the field, but it's the kind of thing that pays off in the long run as you keep at it. Given enough time, you might end up with the big names on your client list. Names like the Wrights in particular. I never did pay much attention to them, but it's virtually impossible not to hear about them when a local news channel or paper has something to say on their name. A party here, an acquisition there. Sometimes it's a new business venture, other time it's the everyday gossip that typically follows popular people like them. Not in a million years did I ever imagine I would end up working for such a high-profile couple. And between that and the fuss that comes with it, it leaves me with no time to ponder over what happened to Isabella, or why Ash is so adamant we keep away from the pair. They do seem like good folk, though, despite the whole fame thing. Sure, there was a rumor running around years ago about him being involved in some business scandal, But just like every gossip blown out of proportion by the media, nothing came of it, and eventually it simply died down. Much is definitely left to be said for the husband, but I doubt a woman like Miss Wright would pick him up if he doesn't have any good points at all. Miss Wright, Hannah herself, though, she ain't particularly bad the way the press makes her out to be. The tabloids had it all wrong, that's for sure. For someone born with a silver spoon in her mouth, well, she ain't exactly what I was expecting. Among other things, the newfound friendship is the least I expected from her. Oh, is what I least expected from her, but here we are. God, I'm sorry, I really just am struggling with reading it. It's early in the morning for me when I'm recording this, so I'm sorry about this being kind of all over the place. Although with a life as public as the Wrights, no wonder it's the woman who often gets the crappy end of the stick. I can't help but feel sorry for her. She's a real nice person when given the chance. Heck, she might have even ended up friends with Rebecca and Isabella too if they weren't living 2 worlds apart. Probably. The beeb quickly pulls me back before my thoughts travel any further. In one practice motion, I carefully place the wet print I'm holding on a drying rack and amble over the makeshift darkroom to get the last photos from the water bath. Inside the converted broom closet, the film processor lets out another soft clack before going on its standby mode. At its mouth, a lone photograph sits on the tray, barely visible with the lack of light. It's the last one tonight for the set Ms. Wright requested. I don't usually make this habit, giving away stuff that is. It's bad for business, no matter how well-intentioned or generous you are. This exception, however, she did treat me well and was a pleasant companion all throughout the shoot. Even if she didn't ask, I would have probably given her a few prints just for the hell of it. Miss Wright ain't such a bad subject matter to begin with. And maybe this is just me, but for someone who has everything at the palm of her hands, all the money in the world, a loving husband, and plenty big mansion to call home, she's lonely. She doesn't just appear like it. It shows in the tone of her voice, how she moves, and most certainly how she smiles. Always hidden behind the glamour for the world to never see. Sometimes for people like her, small things like these helps. A little reminder that the world can be kind, too. Yeah, well, obviously we know that her relationship with her husband is not all too well. And I kind of hate to say it, but I feel like I made her disillusioned with the fact that he loves her. I feel like I probably could have led her down a different path where maybe she started to doubt her husband more, started to separate herself from him more, and maybe we could have gotten a different little ending for her. Maybe we could have pushed her away from possession, potentially. Water drips from the paper as I blindly pick it up and gently lay it out on another tray, holding a decent amount of photo flow. A few seconds under the solution is all it needs before it's ready for drying. No good rushing this last one, even if my body's already screaming for some decent snooze. My hand fumbles for the light switch, moving towards it with familiarity, while I fish for a squeegee among the mess of tools in a drawer with the other. The bulb flickers twice before its glow settles, and casts a soft light on the tiny space. When I glance back down, squeegee in hand, ready to finish the process and finally call it a night. What on earth? Oh, Jesus fuck! Her head is gone. Blurred and distorted beyond recognition, rather. Oh yeah, because that was the picture that he took when the ghost had appeared behind her. That is a fucking horrifying photo. Jesus Christ. The area completely smudged over, leaving no trace of the same sweet smile the good woman carried in all the previous prints. Damn, that was too careless. A common mistake to make, of course, if one is negligent enough to pick a newly processed photo in the dark, like I apparently did. It has happened before, loads of times actually, but I still can't feel a small pang of frustration over one mistake a newbie would likely make. With a sigh, I reach for the switch again, intending to develop a new one from scratch. It could pass off in one of those supernatural pictures they show on TV, though. A memory clicks. One cursory thought in the sea of many, and a short yet distinct second from the day before. A glimpse is all I got, but it's enough to burn the image in my mind. There was a shadow. No. A woman. In her 20s or early 30s, maybe? But with how far gone her flesh alone had become, it's not possible to tell at first glance. skin itself has already taken a sickly pale color, rotten in most parts, blood dripping from every open gash and lesion on her body. Bony hands grip Miss Wright's neck like a noose, staining the skin underneath with a vibrant shade of scarlet. Nothing but malice fills the gleam in her eyes.
Zachary?
Not for me, but for Miss Wright.
Zach, is something the matter?
Oh, no, there's nothing wrong. I just remembered something, that's all. Let's get back to the pictures. Can you move a bit more to the left, yeah? The memory alone is enough to make me retch. I brushed it off then. A trick of the eye, I told myself, or a product of the heat. The weather has been unexpectedly warm recently, so I thought it shouldn't be too surprising for such things to happen. And, well, blaming this on the usual fatigue, an overworked brain, the weather, or an amateur error on my part is far more convenient. It makes a whole lot of sense that what the small voice inside my head whispers. The same tiny voice that only makes itself known when something's afoul. The same one that lent a curious ear to Isabella's worries about the mansion. And with each second I spend staring at this photograph, the murmurs in my head only grow louder against my ears. Someone has to know. Oh shit, okay. Well, here, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna show the photo to Ash. Because at this point in time, Hannah's already been possessed. So if we were to go to her and show her this photo, more than likely she wouldn't care. So I think the person that we have to show this to is Ash, because now that we've kind of established with him, well, we already have established with him, like, hey, you know, we have a good relationship, we trust each other, we can tell each other these things. I think it's best to show it to him, because he can probably do some really good digging. And more than likely, if we show it to Ash, then later on when we play as him, we might actually get involved in the investigation he does on it, maybe. So I'm going to go ahead and show it to Ash, because I just don't think Hannah would care, because I don't think Hannah's really there anymore. Ash will give me flack for this, he will. I can already hear what he's going to say about this the moment I bring it up. Hell, before he sees anything, I'll wager. The guy's a skeptic through and through, and it'll take more than my account for him to even consider this. But when you've been there, seen something enough to raise the hairs at the back of your neck and leave you wanting to flee or hide, what he thinks is the least of my concerns. I'm no hero. That's a title best reserved for someone else. Still, if this helps him change his mind, it's worth a try. Isabella's gone and done the same thing, didn't she? Outside, the sun is yet to rise. I've still got a few hours before dawn. Good enough time to mull over how I'll go about this with him. Plenty of space to check if I'll get the same result if I redo the process again. This film processor hums back to life at my touch. The light switch gives out a soft click, and darkness embraces the small closet yet again. Somehow, those urban legends don't sound so silly now. Sometimes I wish Ash would make himself easier to find. 24 messages, 13 phone calls, and one visit to his flat later. I still have no idea which rock in Luxembourg he went off to hide under again. The guy has his own place, but refuses to stay in it. Has his own phone, but doesn't answer any of his calls or give any indication he's gotten my messages. Most of the time, he'll just show up on my front door. Sometimes in the middle of the night, complaining how uncomfortable it is to sleep at the back of his car, surely. As if the old couch in my flat is any better. Nothing new from him, though, but a bit frustrating, really. There's a police precinct, of course. Then again, he's not there most of the time either. And that's also true for today. He's likely out on another stakeout. There's nothing much to do for me but to wait if that's the case. Let's just hope I'm lucky enough today. While Luxembourg is a relatively peaceful city boasting a low crime rate, its precinct stays abuzz with activity. As soon as I open the glass doors, murmurs coming from the people waiting in the lobby welcome me. Officers can occasionally be seen shuffling around in and out of the rooms, greeting civilians with a casual smile and a polite nod. Some, though, looked a little worse for wear, like the receptionist who looked at me with such disdain the moment I arrived. Thankfully, I won't have to deal with him today. Before I can even step in, Ashton's voice, though low, comes in the hallway adjacent to the lobby. Not even just 1 minute? No, the case was dismissed, remember? You were the one handling that case. If you want to access those records, you've got to ask the chief. I was taken off it before shit went to hell. Why do you even bother? Even Professor Clark seems to have given up on that. Well, never mind. You won't understand. Right. I know you owe Professor Clark a lot, but the right guy just isn't someone you mess with. They've got the money. Who knows what else gets swept under the rug with them involved? That takes a special kind of ignorant not to know. And a smart person to know which boundaries he can't cross. You're a bright guy. You'll figure it out. In any case, I've got to get going. Another missing person case on my hand. Benjamin at the front desk looks like he's about to maul someone after the fourth one yesterday. Murders, people missing. What a time to be alive. Man, I miss the old Luxburn. You and me both. I'll see you around. Gonna go grab some lunch. He notices me first as soon as he enters the lobby and pauses. Confusion briefly crosses his face until I fish out the phone from my pocket and wave it up. Frowning, he pulls his own mobile out, wordlessly fiddling with it for a few seconds before sighing heavily. There ain't any annoyance in him when he glances up, though, only mild exasperation and what might be a hint of amusement. Stop taking pointers from Isabella. This is gonna get old soon. At least use your phone properly. It's an alarm clock, a good note-taking device, a halfway decent camera, and maybe a music player too if I'm being nice. What else do I need it for? I don't know. Keep it in contact, maybe? When he merely shrugs, I know I've struck a chord. He's far from holding a piece of technology in contempt, of course. Ash has always been nothing but practical from the start, and technology is useful. Only when he gets too focused on one thing like a case he's handling, he tends to forget there are other things around him. A little reminder and a nudge in the right direction can get him a long way. I've got an email on that social media site the girls roped us into joining. That doesn't make any sense. Also, you got an account before any of us had one. For policing purposes. Anyway, why are you here? I thought you have something scheduled today? Or was that yesterday? That was yesterday. Look, about that. There's something I want you to see. He stops me with a tap on my shoulder, walks past me straight to the door, and gestures with his head towards their very irked receptionist when I raise an eyebrow in question. Over lunch. I haven't eaten anything since last night, and Benjamin there doesn't really like loiterers around here. Wordlessly I follow after him, but not after sending the poor guy behind the table an apologetic smile. As expected, he takes a seat in the farthest corner of the cafe, a good way away from the window, but easily allows a view of who comes and goes. Secluded enough not to be disturbed by the lunch hour rush or be overheard by a curious bystander. If I didn't know this is lunch he invited me to, I would automatically assume I got dragged into another stakeout. After years of knowing him, though, this has simply become one of the many habits I've gotten used to. Food arrives a minute later. A slice of their vegetarian quiche for me. Meanwhile, Ashton has opted for a cup of coffee, plus a gracious serving of... You having cake for lunch? He shrugs, and then proceeds to dig in without even a hint of remorse. Frankly, it's like seeing a child get his Christmas present early. Don't tell Becca, I'll get an earful. It's just for today. You should listen to her, though. The kind of work you do, you'll need to eat something other than sweets. I don't want to see you drop dead in front of my apartment again. I told you, just this once. Have you been hanging out with Becca lately? You're beginning to sound like her. Nah, just for some recipes. But she has the right to worry, you know? It's like she's taking care of two kids. One bitch is on sweet while the other on cup noodles. At least Bella knows how to cook. Hey, I can at least boil something. Wait, that's easy, right? I mean, just put water in and... No, don't even think about it. You destroyed your own kitchen once by slicing a pressure cooker on it. I think my sister's a whole lot better than you, and this is coming from someone who has no other choice but to eat her cooking from time to time. To be fair, he genuinely appears offended at the last remark. Hate will be too strong of a word to describe... Hate will be too strong of a word to describe how Sis and him usually interact whenever they're in the same room. Though whatever appropriate word it is, I can say with most certainty that the feeling's mutual for both. Ash thinks she nags too much, while Sis thinks he's a trouble magnet I should stay away from. They're both technically right on their assessments. How's your sister, by the way? Still bullying white guys? What? She bullies white guys? She's married to one now, or you're the one who started it? Let's go with she's married to one now. You do know she's married to one now. I hope she doesn't end up poisoning him with her cooking. Pot calling the kettle black? She can't be better than me. Actually, she is now. They're planning to start a restaurant sometime in the future. I was bedridden for days after eating some of the stuff she whipped up, and now you're letting her cook for people? Don't exaggerate. It was just for one day, and you're the one who refused to leave your apartment. You should come by, though. She gave birth a few days ago. Girl. I've only seen pictures, but I might visit sometime after everything's settled down. Too many backlogs to go through for now. No way in hell. She'll just find something to criticize again. Last time it was Shirley. He makes a show of being utterly mortified, though I'm quite sure he doesn't mean any of that. He might not say it straight out, but I'm pretty sure he's enjoying the small visits whenever he can. Something about it reminds him of his own family, sort of like making up for the one he never got back after his parents separated. Sore spot, that one topic. One thing he never ever brings up in any conversation, if he can help it. And I've never seen the need to be nosy. There are some wounds you're just not meant to open, and for the both of us, the sentiment goes the same way. As if you ain't already on her shit list. You're just afraid of her. In your dreams. But I'll think about it. Can't just drop this thing at the moment. His change in tone is subtle, but his aggravation over the matter hangs completely palpable in the air. Still no closer? The opposite, actually. There's been some slip-ups here and there. Careless mistakes, and let's just say I'm waiting for him to make another one. What about you? How are things on your end? All piled up on top of one another, but I can manage. Still recovering from the expenses of the movie, so Serge and the new projects help. And, well, this is one thing. The expression on his face grows more puzzled with each photo I spread on the table. There's about 8 of them, all of it reprints of the same thing. Miss Wright's distorted head on the photos. He takes a minute to go through each, eyeing the prints warily. The furrow on his brow doesn't ease even as he gathers all of it into one pile and sets them in one neat stack in front of me with a heavy sigh. Hannah Wright? Oh, yeah. How did you... The locket. She never takes it off. Evan's family heirloom. I won't even think about asking why or how he knows that. If he's investigating them, he'll likely have already dug up every unimaginable dirt on them, including family history. Are you done with your work for them? Yesterday, yeah. It's just a small feature for a magazine. Interviews, photos, standard stuff, no big deal. But, see, here's the thing. I don't know how else to put this out there without sounding crazy, but there really is something odd with that place. Remember the letter? He drags in a breath, reaches up his nose and pinches it, like the action alone will help grant him all the patience in the world to continue this conversation. Please tell me this isn't about that again. No, Ash, you've got to listen this time. I am listening, and I can't believe that just came out of your mouth. These are some blurred out photos, and that letter is just a stupid prank. I expected this from Isabella, not you. You're the photographer here, but I don't see any need to get worked up over this. I know what you mean, but will you hear me out first? Ash leans back on his seat and doesn't say anything further. He gestures for me to continue with the wave of his hand, impatience clearly on his face. Any other person telling him this and he'll walk out without batting an eye. I suppose the only reason he's giving me the benefit of the doubt is because we know each other. Ash, I don't buy easily into things these... Bleh. Ash, I don't easily buy into these things as much as you do. Yesterday, though, behind Hannah... He blinks at this, his eyebrows lifting momentarily before settling into a deep frown. Hannah? Since when were you on a first-name basis with the right missus? Why does that even matter? I thought you said this was just a gig. His voice stays level, but the accusation in it is as clear as day. It hits a nerve in me somehow, more than that tone usually does. I do get where he's coming from, but that's not the point here, or it really is just a gig. Ooh, okay, we are at another crossroads here. That's not the point here, or it's just the gig. I feel like if I say that's not the point here, then he'll just keep lingering on that. And if I say it's really just a gig, then, oh man. I feel like we really just have to set it straight. Like, it's really just a gig. Patience can be tough. Can be a tough thing to summon at times. But we didn't get this far as friends if we let our own tempers be the lord of us. Bro, it's really just another freelance work. He eyes me skeptically, the same stare he reserves for people he interrogates. I've been on the receiving end of it before, early in our friendship. Years later, he's got the unimpressed police look down pat. And there's nothing going on with me and Miss Hannah. She was just being friendly. Insisted I call her by her first name, that's all. I wasn't implying any of that. You're not that sort of guy. I know. But let's just get that out of the way. The just in case, elephant in the room scenario, right? She's a married woman, Jesus. Not with the image she presents in public. Nope, but trust me, she ain't any of the things the tabloid writes about her. Like I read any of those. I know you don't. But keep it in mind, will you? Will do. Though I can't promise you'll get off scot-free if she's involved. Man, with how you're acting, it feels like I'm doing a solid for your girlfriend. Cut that out, will ya? I'm not asking you to. Besides, what's currently going on here is more important. Alright, lay it in. Recounting everything takes the better half of our lunch, but he manages to listen through the entire thing without a snide comment. A feat in itself, actually. At the end of it, Ash merely nods, takes out his phone and excuses himself. Off to a far corner of the cafe for some privacy, if you can even afford to have such in a place as public as this. He returns in a little while and hands me a small card. I can't stop you if you're willing to believe in this crap. Give this guy a call. You're better off talking to him than me. He's at the public library now if you want to catch him there. He used to be my professor back at the university. Oh, no, I don't think that's... Go on, I already gave him a heads up. You know I can't help you out, man. He gives a tap on my arm and walks off, mumbling about checking back how things are at the precinct. I don't see his face when he leaves, but I know this is his own little way of helping out despite what he doesn't voice out. Of all the places that never crossed my mind, I'll end up wandering into the public libraries today, considering I rarely ever visited. Somehow there's always been this kind of disconnect between me and books in general. Sure, some of them held my attention in my youth during the brief times of the day I was left to my own with nothing to do. I went through the whole of Grant's collection, as a matter of fact. Read all of them twice, or thrice even. But they never did hold for long. Most of it never even stuck. Especially after I learned it's simply easier to do things for myself if I want to learn stuff. This ain't in the plan in the first place. But after I actually went through the trouble to contact the professor, I can't just ignore it. Nothing but quiet greets me inside, though. Not the typical mum one would associate with the library, but one akin to a hush prior to an impending trouble. Or perhaps I'm just overthinking again. I really like to think I'm just thinking too much about things, but this is just the lack of sleep talking. Regardless, apart from a group of students murmuring in a corner somewhere, the place is free of its usual visitors. All while my footsteps echo in a manner unsettling enough to raise the hairs at the back of my neck. Much to my relief, it does not take me long to find him, being the only occupant in this side of the room. Professor Andrew Clark. I've never personally met the man, but Ash has spoken highly of him several times. In fact, he's Ash's go-to guy whenever something's troubling him with a case. My steps are unsure as I approach. At any rate, he greets me with a warm smile like a grandson he hasn't seen in any long time. Ashton's friend, I take it? Zachary. You'll have to forgive this old man if I don't get your name right. Oh no, you got it. It's Zach. Zachary Steele, Professor Clark. He gestures at the empty seat across from the table while he returns to his books. The next couple of minutes pass in relative silence as he continues to read and take notes from the pile he's accumulated on the table. Maybe I should have taken a book first before heading here? But before I can even get far into the idea, the professor clicks the book shut and sets it atop the stack next to him. Ashton told me you're hoping to get... Whoa. I don't know what kind of accent I just gave him there. Ashton told me you're hoping to get some answers out of me. From me. Although I'm not quite sure what I could share, I'll do my best to help. Of course, there are a lot of things I want to ask. How do we get out of this mess and is the first among tens, hundreds of concerns in my mind. But in the presence of someone I barely know, the thoughts won't easily form. He's nothing but patient, however, and with enough time to mull over, the question finally forms. Do you believe in the paranormal, Professor? It's supernatural, actually. Don't worry, it's a common mistake to make, but there really are two different things. The other one deals with what we can't explain at the moment, while the others are things that we have no explanation to. Here. He places a couple of papers in front of me, the very same one he was writing on earlier. A study of Luxburn's supernatural culture in a nutshell. A friend of mine wrote that a few years ago. He took interest in the city after reading about the stories. I have to agree with him here. Even stories dealing with things you don't see with the naked eye can be rife with culture, and this city thrives on it. Just ask the locals. Like a ghost, for example? Among other things. The interpretations have changed over the years, though. Various religions, for example, have their own version, and might not always be a spirit now. It could be a memory, or an imprint, an echo, so to speak. Some are born from curses even, out of anger, hatred, pain. There was just one story. Here it is. Another book is pulled out from the stack and placed upon top of the papers. Or he speaks with such passion that it makes me wonder if some part of him believes these to be true. It is interesting, though, even if I'm personally not a fan of such stories. And soon, hours pass without my notice. In the end, it asks for something to be sacrificed in order to destroy whatever anchors the wrath. A sad tale, that one, but the simplest grudge can bring the ugliest, even the kindest person, with some people none the wiser. I'm sorry, I just went on. Nah, it's good. Whoa, what was that? Are you familiar with the Ermgard mansion, though? Of course, that goes without saying. Who hasn't heard of the local legend? In fact, you aren't the first person to ask me about that recently. Although the word of mouth is someone has already bought it. Ah, yeah, the Wright couple. It was a close friend who hailed that sale. So I heard. Well, don't think the house being bought by anyone would stop us from talking about it. What is it about the mansion, then? I just wanted to ask what you think of it, sir. We're going to need more than an afternoon for that, young man. You see, it's the kind that has changed over the years, passed down from one person to the next. Sometimes it's the Lord William who haunts the place. There are versions where it's the lady of the house. But my favorite, a personal favorite, would have to be the ones that followed after the disappearance of the kind daughter. Well, what about these, then? There's a moment of hesitation on my part before I pull out Miss Wright's photos and lay them all in front of him. Unlike Ash, though, the professor inspects each print with great interest. That gives me some hope, at least. When were these taken? Just the other day. Do you think these are the same? Perhaps. Perhaps not. There were certainly instances where the film would pick up what the human eyes weren't able to see. But then it also could have been human error. I didn't edit it in any way. You have my word on that, Professor. They all just came out like that. Then if it is what you're thinking, I'd strongly advise against doing something reckless and further tangling with them. Accounts about them may be riveting to you, but most of it often ends in an unpleasant manner. What about those people in the house? If there is something in there, shouldn't they know? I'm sure they're already familiar with the legends, but some people might deserve it, however. Deserve? What, sir? All of a sudden, the tenderness in the professor's eyes disappears, his face becoming unreadable. As though catching himself, he hastily clears his throat, gathers his books and rises from his seat. Professor? I'm sorry. I just remembered something I neglected to do. You'll have to excuse me, Zachary. Alright. Do you need any help with that? Don't let my looks fool you, son. I can still carry a few hundreds. I've been doing this for years. I'll see you some other time if you have any questions. Of course. It was nice knowing you, Professor. He doesn't hear it, however. In a few short strides, he's out of the library, leaving me and every piece of this whole mess amidst the oppressive stillness. Despite the answers gleaned, more questions surfaced. If there is even a single way out of this, I hope we find it soon. The moon is well into the night sky by the time I make it back home. The heavy treads and the sound of traffic outside echoing in my ears, filling the empty room with some semblance of life. Nana would scold me if she ever hears me talk like that, but after today, I really don't give a damn about everything. The mattress creaks under my weight as I unceremoniously flop down on it, and I find myself looking at the paper under my grip. An invitation and a request to cover an event. The Wright's housewarming party. Tomorrow evening. If only were that easy, but it'll give me a chance to talk to her. About that thing in their house. With a sigh, I let my hand fall to the side of the bed along with the invitation. I'll think about it tomorrow, when my head ain't muddled with thoughts of a headless woman and the haunting smiles of a ghost. Belatedly, it occurs to me that the last meal I ate had been the one with Ashton, and an empty gnawing ache makes itself known, but I can't bring myself to stand up. Today was a complete waste of time, and frankly, a disappointment. I don't like this. The lack of certainty, the disquiet, the lack of stable ground to stand on, the part where I do not know what will come tomorrow. Ever since that damn letter, everything's been thrown out of the loop. I wish everything stayed the same. Routine would have been easier to make sense of any of this. Closing my eyes, I let the noise from the streets below lull me to sleep. At the very least, that's the one thing that hasn't changed. October 29th. Funnily enough, today is October 29th. We're gonna go ahead and save here, and I use my menu. That's kind of funny. Today is October 29th. Alright, but no, seriously, we actually got a lot of information there. So, I'm going to assume with the way he worded that our ghost is going to be this quote-unquote kind daughter. And earlier, I forget who exactly mentioned it, but we had said that there was a line from it. It might have been the professor that said it. My memory is just horrible, but it was sometimes like the most kind people can be like vicious when they get angry. Oh no, it was something Zach said about Isabella. I forget what the exact saying was, but it was basically about, kind people getting angry and insinuating that it can be pretty fucking, harsh and gnarly, So that could be the potential here. Maybe the kind daughter got betrayed in some way or had some serious grudge left behind when she died. And going by how she has all these lacerations, cuts, and blood on her, it may be very possible that she was murdered, potentially, or something along those lines, and clearly she came back for revenge. And the reason why she would take Hannah over, and as opposed to like Isabella or somebody else, may insinuate that either she's just taking advantage of Hannah's emotional instability, or there's something going on that, like, maybe she had a past love and now she's trying to get that back, or she's trying to kind of relive that, like live that through somebody else, sort of like, oh, I'm gonna take over this woman's body and I'm never gonna let him go this time. And also, I think that a big indicator of this is that Ash said that, oh, the necklace that she wore is like the Evans family heirloom, and that she never takes it off, and yet just now she had taken it off to put on that pendant instead. So there, maybe somebody might notice that, but yeah, because it says that we got an invitation to the housewarming party, but the thing is that when we were playing as Hannah, we never actually saw Zach at the housewarming party. We saw Becca, but never Zach. So who knows, honestly? We'll just have to see in the next episode. Anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like on this video, and tell me in the comments section below what you'd like to see me play next. If you enjoy this series, or any other videos or series on my channel, then I hope you guys hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you'll be notified when a new one of those videos comes out. Anyways, that's it from me. Happy Halloween, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.